Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of CarX Drift Racing 2 with Brogue Hammer Auto House. Today's episode, we're going to talk about little tips and tricks and how to tandem like a pro in CarX Drift Racing 2 Mobile. This is for iOS and Android as well. We're going to start off here, just a little fun line I did in the events with the Horizon GT4. They're doing a bunch of events on Kami Road right now. So get out there and play those events, get your gold, get your silver, unlock some drift boxes, some engine swaps, and let me know what you think. I actually just unlocked the VR 38 or 3.8 for the GTR, and I thought that should come with a factory, but whatever. We're going to jump into a top 4 Blitz. I'm going to show you guys raw all the way through qualifying 1, 2, and 3 runs. All 3 of my chase runs for the top 4, and then all 3 of my chase runs for the finals. And we're going to end it off with a top 4 Blitz victory. And after that, I'm going to show you guys a couple of more tips and tricks as far as how to chase well, what kind of steering inputs you should be using, braking and handbrake usage, a little bit of throttle control, and kind of, e-brake and tire type stuff for tandeming with other people. So as you can see, this is my second qualifying run here. Sent it in with a little too much speed on this first turn, didn't get out wide enough, which sent me deep into outside zone 2 here, I'm going to call it, which then naturally just threw me off my whole line for the entire track. One of the biggest things about throwing a smooth line is to maintain your consistency. If you throw it in the same way in most tracks, then you're going to get used to how the car flicks to angle, how quickly it flicks to angle, and when you should get back on throttle. Qualifying run number 3 did happen to be the top scoring qualifying run that I ran today, so pay attention to this one. I just went straight ahead, got into 4th gear, flicked it in, got right on the outside, nice smooth transition out to outside zone 2, staying just barely on the edge of that blue concrete. Flicking back, getting a full outside zone. I cannot emphasize getting these zones enough. They are worth a ton of DP points on your score, and they make a huge difference if you're not clipping them. So that was the end of my 3rd qualifying run. I did score a 12,183. That did put me in the number 1 qualifying position for the top 4 Blitz here. And if you missed the video, I did make a video on how to make a 600 horsepower car for these competitions. And it's the one that I'm using today as well. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out and jump into the top 4 Blitzes, because the top 32s take way too long. All right, so I'm going up against an EVA MR that only scored about 5,000 points on his first run, which means it's almost a guaranteed victory for me as long as I score, a decent number of points in chase. So this starts off, and he goes out left. I try to follow and flick there. Didn't realize that he went off track. Obviously, this is the first chase run. And I also wanted to give a pointer there, as you saw me avoid his rear bumper when it was swinging around, that the biggest thing in these tandem comps is to not touch that lead player. If you do, it gets rid of your multiplier, it gets rid of your chasing points, and it's just really hard to get a victory if you're losing all your points and your multiplier by touching them. That chase there was not one of the better ones, but we'll jump out. We'll go to chase number 2 and do some more analytics with that. This one is not a very solid lead run. I understand that not everybody can throw down a perfectly clean lead run, but I think he's just more of a beginner player at this point. Initiates really late. He's out in the grass. I try to initiate, to predict what he's about to do, and it was just really tricky with this one. You'll see in the finals we actually had some really good battles, which I'm excited to show you guys. And a couple more pointers here while we're waiting. Always be matching the tire tread that you are chasing. And you can always go back and check that before you battle them, so you don't waste the first chase run on having the wrong tire and maybe being either too grippy or not gripped up enough. You also want to make sure that you're not using the handbrake a ton. The reason I say that is because if you're coming up on somebody and you pull some handbrake to maybe slow the car down, if you don't get back on throttle instantly, your car will naturally, fall back from the car in front of you. My biggest suggestion is if you can do it to try to let off throttle in chase rather than using the handbrake, and just kind of like use that throttle modulation to stay close behind him. Now, obviously, there's going to be situations in almost every chase run where you're going to need to pull the handbrake at some point, but I'm just saying don't use it as a crux all the time because it doesn't always work out with you the best that way, and it just depends on what the lead driver's doing, how fast they're driving, what they're showing. And so I'm going to show you here. Before my finals run, I went back, and you can actually watch the qualifying run of the opponent that you're going to be, chasing down. So first thing I noticed, he is on a semi-slick tire. He also turns right at first and then flicks in left and goes into the entry. He does a good job of filling the outside zone 2 there, outside zone 3, another great positioning filling that zone. Flicks back. He's got a lot of speed in this run, so I knew that coming into it, I'd have to put the semi-slicks on my car and also be pretty shallow angled in order to maintain the same speed that he was running. I always do this to give myself a much better advantage to see what the run looks like, maybe notice certain zones where he comes to a very slow pace, so you can predict that ahead of time and break off behind him so that you don't touch him again to prevent the loss of that multiplier. So you can see he scored 11,841 points on his qualifier, mine 12,183. So he really only needs to get a couple hundred points more than I do in the chase position, and he'll win the battle. That being said, I felt pretty confident going into this one. I threw those semi-slick tires on my car, and sorry for the zoom here, I had a notification on my screen I couldn't show. Flicked it in. He was a little shallow there. I was too aggressive on that first outside zone there, number 2, and fell way behind. So you can see I'm taking angle out of the car, continuing on accelerating to try to catch up as much as I can without going too fast to the point where I'm running into his door. So you can see I scored 13,000 points or so in chase on that first run. But now we're going to go back and refine it. I have a good run under my belt. I can be a little bit more risky with run number 2 and 3 to really make sure that we secure the bag on the victory of the top 4 Blitz here. So this time, you can see he does his flick. I jump in 4th gear, try to transition, and I was just too tight on him, so I did go into his rear fender there, lost my multiplier and points obviously, but got right back on it. Transitioned a little early in that outside zone there. In Formula Drift standards, that would be an absolute 0. I straightened on the outside zone. Ended up being a throwaway run from there. I wasn't able to do a whole lot. And then we have chase number 3 here. Now this is for everything. This is the finals, 3rd run, and we're going to see if we can take home the victory today. So flick it in. Pretty wide, nice, following the same line. Transition. That time I flicked it too hard and almost got a little bit backwards. So I had to downshift to 3rd gear, back up to 4th to get back on his door as fast as I could. Did a much better job in this outer zone on the 3rd run than I did in the previous run, and it was just enough. That was not my highest scored chase run. I think it was actually the first one that was highest scored. So I ended up getting a total of 25,313 points. He was at 21.8, so naturally that did give me the overall advantage, and we took home the victory here. You'll see a little victory lap. Now I also wanted to take a second, this is first place obviously, but we're going to go back and review his chase run of me and see why he wasn't able to score as high as I was, and maybe some corrections he could have made in order to actually beat me in the Blitz top 4. So if you go back to the little blue lines that were next to the finish sign there at the end, you can go back in, hit play on the right side, and you'll see from his position, his point of view, how it looked chasing me down. I was pretty satisfied with this. He obviously ended up going off into the grass and falling way too far behind. I was kind of surprised to see this when I first watched it, because if he had gotten 3 runs in, you would think he would have adjusted properly to make sure he didn't go in the grass. The other thing is he had to switch down to a sport tire to chase me, and he was used to a semi-slick, so he probably was used to hucking into that front corner and not having any issues with staying within the track. So that's it for the top 4 Blitz. I have a few runs here that I wanted to also analyze and give some pointers on. These are in the event currently. I believe it's ending on June 24th. There's about a day and a half left on it. But I have a variety of different cars here that I was running. Running edge to edge on Commie Road, trying to kind of show the limitations of a lot of these cars. And I was able to get a lot of good runs put in. I know they have the little, I don't even know what to call them, barrier things that you can run into to get those points, but they're not giving any rewards for the points or anything right now, so I was not really focused on those paddles in the middle of the track that were out there because there was really no use for them. So we're going to switch over now, run the same thing here in the S13. You can correct me, I know that they all have different body kits on them and weird stuff, so no worries. The final thing I wanted to talk about was just your throttle control in general. Throttle is the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest part of drifting, and if you don't have your throttle control down, steering is not going to save you. Handbrake is not going to save you. I do not run with the variable throttle. I just run with kind of a throttle on-off switch, but if you listen closely to the cars, you'll notice where I'm at with the throttle. When I'm coming in or you're going too wide on a corner, lift on that throttle a little bit, let it settle down, slow down, and grip up, and then get right back into throttle to close out the turn or, you know, come flying out of somewhere. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I really appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for future content. Leave a comment below if you guys have any questions or suggestions for future videos, and I'd be happy to review them and let you know if I can make them. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.